Volume 2, Part 19 of Herodotus' Histories. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Graham Redman. Histories, Volume 2, by Herodotus of Halicarnassus, translated by A.D. Godley. Volume 2, Part 19. Such is the tale of the choice among the suitors, and thus the fame of the Alcmeonidae resounded throughout Hellas. From this marriage was born that Cleisthenes, named after his mother's father from Sicyon, who gave the Athenians their tribes and their democracy. He and Hippocrates were born to Megacles. Hippocrates was father of another Megacles and another Agariste, called after Agariste, who was Cleisthenes' daughter. She was married to Xanthippus, son of Eryphron, and when she was pregnant she saw in her sleep a vision in which she thought she gave birth to a lion. In a few days she bore Xanthippus a son, Pericles. After the Persian disaster at Marathon, the reputation of Miltiades, already great at Athens, very much increased. He asked the Athenians for 70 ships, an army, and money, not revealing against what country he would lead them, but saying that he would make them rich if they followed him. He would bring them to a country from which they could easily carry away an abundance of gold. So he said when he asked for the ships. The Athenians were induced by these promises, and granted his request. Miltiades took his army, and sailed for Paros, on the pretext that the Parians had brought this on themselves by first sending triremes with the Persian fleet to Marathon. Such was the pretext of his argument, but he had a grudge against the Parians, because Lysagoras, son of Tysias, a man of Parian descent, had slandered him to Hydarnes the Persian. When he reached his voyage's destination, Miltiades with his army drove the Parians inside their walls and besieged them. He sent in a herald and demanded 100 talents, saying that if they did not give it to him, his army would not return home before it had stormed their city. The Parians had no intention of giving Miltiades any money at all, and they contrived how to defend their city. They did this by building their wall at night to double its former height where it was most assailable, and also by other devices. All the Greeks tell the same story up to this point. After this, the Parians themselves say that the following happened. As Miltiades was in a quandary, a captive woman named Tymo, Parian by birth and an under-priestess of the goddesses of the dead, came to talk with him. Coming before Miltiades, she advised him, if taking Paros was very important to him, to do whatever she suggested. Then, following her advice, he passed through to the hill in front of the city, and jumped over the fence of the precinct of Demeter the lawgiver, since he was unable to open the door. After leaping over, he went to the shrine, whether to move something that should not be moved, or with some other intention. When he was right at the doors, he was immediately seized with panic, and hurried back by the same route. Leaping down from the wall, he twisted his thigh, but some say he hit his knee. So Miltiades sailed back home in a sorry condition, neither bringing money for the Athenians, nor having won Paros. He had besieged the town for 26 days, and ravaged the island. The Parians learned that Tymo, the under-priestess of the goddesses, had been Miltiades' guide, and desired to punish her for this. Since they now had respite from the siege, they sent messengers to Delphi to ask if they should put the under-priestess to death for guiding their enemies to the capture of her native country, and for revealing to Miltiades the rites that no male should know. But the Pythian priestess forbade them, saying that Tymo was not responsible. Miltiades was doomed to make a bad end, and an apparition had led him in these evils. Such was the priestess' reply to the Parians. The Athenians had much to say about Miltiades on his return from Paros, especially Xanthippus, son of Eryphron, who prosecuted Miltiades before the people for deceiving the Athenians, and called for the death penalty. Miltiades was present, but could not speak in his own defence, since his thigh was festering. He was laid before the court on a couch, and his friends spoke for him, often mentioning the fight at Marathon and the conquest of Lemnos, how Miltiades had punished the Pelasgians and taken Lemnos, delivering it to the Athenians. The people took his side as far as not condemning him to death, but they fined him 50 talents for his wrongdoing. Miltiades later died of gangrene and rot in his thigh, and the 50 talents were paid by his son Cimon. Miltiades, son of Cimon, took possession of Lemnos in this way. When the Pelasgians were driven out of Attica by the Athenians, whether justly or unjustly I cannot say, beyond what is told, namely that Hecataeus, the son of Hegesandrus, declares in his history that the act was unjust, for when the Athenians saw the land under Hymettus, formerly theirs, which they had given to the Pelasgians as a dwelling place in reward for the wall that had once been built around the Acropolis, when the Athenians saw how well this place was tilled, which previously had been bad and worthless, they were envious and coveted the land, and so drove the Pelasgians out on this and no other pretext. But the Athenians themselves say that their reason for expelling the Pelasgians was just. The Pelasgians set out from their settlement at the foot of Hymettus and wronged the Athenians in this way. Neither the Athenians nor any other Hellenes had servants yet at that time, and their sons and daughters used to go to the 9 wells for water, and whenever they came, the Pelasgians maltreated them out of mere arrogance and pride. And this was not enough for them. Finally they were caught in the act of planning to attack Athens. The Athenians were much better men than the Pelasgians, since, when they could have killed them, caught plotting as they were, they would not do so, but ordered them out of the country. The Pelasgians departed and took possession of Lemnos, besides other places. This is the Athenian story. The other is told by Hecataeus. These Pelasgians dwelt at that time in Lemnos, and desired vengeance on the Athenians. Since they well knew the time of the Athenian festivals, they acquired 50 oared ships, and set an ambush for the Athenian women celebrating the festival of Artemis at Broron. They seized many of the women, then sailed away with them, and brought them to Lemnos to be their concubines. These women bore more and more children, and they taught their sons the speech of Attica and Athenian manners. These boys would not mix with the sons of the Pelasgian women. If one of them was beaten by one of the others, they would all run to his aid and help each other. These boys even claimed to rule the others, and were much stronger. When the Pelasgians perceived this, they took counsel together. It troubled them much in their deliberations to think what the boys would do when they grew to manhood, if they were resolved to help each other against the sons of the lawful wives, and attempted to rule them already. Thereupon the Pelasgians resolved to kill the sons of the Attic women. They did this, and then killed the boys' mothers also. From this deed, and the earlier one which was done by the women when they killed their own husbands who were Thoas' companions, a Lemnian crime has been a proverb in Hellas for any deed of cruelty. But when the Pelasgians had murdered their own sons and women, their land brought forth no fruit, nor did their wives and their flocks and herds bear offspring as before. Crushed by hunger and childlessness, they sent to Delphi to ask for some release from their present ills. The Pythian priestess ordered them to pay the Athenians whatever penalty the Athenians themselves judged. The Pelasgians went to Athens and offered to pay the penalty for all their wrongdoing. The Athenians set in their town hall a couch adorned as finely as possible, and placed beside it a table covered with all manner of good things. Then ordered the Pelasgians to deliver their land to them in the same condition. The Pelasgians answered, "We will deliver it when a ship with a north wind accomplishes the voyage from your country to ours in 1 day." They supposed that this was impossible, since Attica is far to the south of Lemnos. At the time that was all, but a great many years later, when the Chersonese on the Hellespont was made subject to Athens, Miltiades, son of Simon, accomplished the voyage from Elias on the Chersonese to Lemnos with the Etesian winds then constantly blowing. He proclaimed that the Pelasgians must leave their island, reminding them of the oracle which the Pelasgians thought would never be fulfilled. The Hephaestians obeyed, but the Myrinians would not agree that the Chersonese was Attica, and were besieged until they too submitted. Thus did Miltiades and the Athenians take possession of Lemnos. End of Volume 2, Part 19. End of Herodotus' Histories, Volume 2, translated by A.D. Godley. Recording by Graham Redman.